Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt and this is Cutting Through the Matrix on the 14th of August 2016. Now this week it'll be a part 2 of last week's elections, Punch and Judy, Wag the Dog, World of Wrestling and more brain fog. Because that's what we get, isn't it? But mind you, when the US does something like this, they do an incredible... After all, they've got Hollywood there, they've got all the professionals and the biggest marketing, advertising companies on the planet based in the US, you see. And the marketing companies are meant to totally understand you psychologically and make you do things and buy things and change your behavior into things that you never even thought possible because they weren't your thoughts in the first place. But anyway, that's how it all works, doesn't it? So it's the greatest show on earth. It truly, no one else has got the bucks or the expertise to put on such a display, to enthrall people and get them all fired up and believing in it. It's awfully important that people believe in it because, you see, as I say, you always vote in another bunch because you're so sick of the bunch that's already been in. That's what democracy means, you see. You get rid of the last bunch because they're so corrupt, and you just live in hope that the next bunch that promise you something different will actually be better than the last. It's never happened, I think, in history, but the hope is there. Hope springs eternal, right? And it's better than having revolutions every 5 years or so. Living in hope is much better. It doesn't change anything, but it's always the same crooks that run the planet based on the same corrupt system, you see. Because it's one system and money runs it all. And all you do is see who's in control of the cash worldwide, and that's all you need to really know. Everything else follows suit, you see, down the pyramid, you see. And as I've said so many times before, they've got to put a good show on now with democracy, republicanism, it doesn't matter what you want to call it. Getting a vote, basically, makes you think that you've got rights. And you do have a right. You have a right to vote, that's it. That's the only right that you have. You have the right to be fooled as well, or lied to. That's not against the law, you see. And that gives you the right to vote. And then when you vote, you give legal authority for whoever you voted for, or you think you voted for, because it's never who you really think you voted for in the first place. Total control over you and your life. Literally life and death, basically, you know. And that's what it's all about. Legalities are awfully important. Awfully important. So, tonight I'm going to continue about that, and it's quite amazing to me. People are really so fired up about things, eh? They really are. And I mean, these things used to be the same as old religious wars. People would start talking about religion over a couple of drinks and start killing each other. That's true. I mean, people did that, you know. And now you see it all with politics too, and so politics and religion are out of most polite conversations. And actually, the higher up you go, they're not mentioned at all because it's taken for granted that those who are way above it all are already running it all anyway. As simple as that. So you don't discuss it. Who wants to talk about work, even though they don't do much at the top? But you look at who is going to bring you something different. Really, huh? Who? Remember that old saying about voting and democracy and so on? It's really a couple of wolves arguing over the sheep. You know, that's really what it's about. Who's going to get the right to fleece you and eat you? You know, that's all it's about, folks. I hate to say it. When you meet real good psychopaths that are up in high positions, born into the right families, you see, they're not smashing windows, smashing grabs, running off with some diamonds or bracelets or something. They literally are up. They're already into Princeton and guaranteed. Whether they can pass an exam or not doesn't matter. That their daddies make sure they'll pass. And anybody who runs these universities know darn well that they'll be out of a job if they don't pass them. That's how things really, really work in the real world. It really does. And for that, you've got to have a real naive population who are decent people and who can't think in a psychopathic fashion. That's why psychopaths, if they do get caught, the lower psychopaths love to talk about themselves and how they con people. And they would tell you, it's absolutely astonishing, they'd say, as to how naive people, they couldn't fathom normal people. Why didn't they ever learn? That's the difference. That's the difference. But those at the top never get caught because it's their system, naturally. And if they're accused of anything, they've got batteries of lawyers to do all their talking for them. So nothing goes to trial, and etc. And everything's tossed out the window, including bodies and corpses and things like that. So, I mean, that's the real world. That's what we live in. Honestly. Sad, isn't it? Very sad. Now, let's look at who's lined up for the top positions. You know, the appointees. As I've said so many talks before, the appointees are more important than the ones you think you elect. The people behind who you think you elect are more important than the ones you think you elect. That's really what it is too. And believe you me, there's only one agenda. And the folk who get all the top positions have a lot in common. An awful lot in common, folks. Awful lot. Awful lot in common. Now, let's look to see what's going to change. Now remember, the things that are written in stone are going to continue. The wars across the Middle East. They still want to finish off Syria. That was part of the old plan from the 90s. And they're going to finish off Iran too, one way or another. And the whole machinery to do that still there and sitting, waiting in the whole bit, you know. And certain other folk have big expectations of this happening too that don't even live inside the US. Old plan, you see. Anyway, here's quite a laugh here actually. You know, when you look at when you look at the people who are lined up, I love that marketing ploy they came up with. I always give you meaningless phrases, election time, like change is good. Remember Obama? Change is good. Yep. And where did all that go? What changes? Who's behind Obama too? Who's behind the present bunch of world wrestlers? Who? Have you ever looked at it and had a little gander? And let's see about Trump, for instance. I put up a link to that. Now, all these articles I put links up for you, if you really want to have a look. Mind you, and it's true enough, isn't it amazing how folk are so ingrained, it's almost like they're programmed into politics, and I've always voted whatever it is, and I'll continue to vote whatever it is. It's like my country right or wrong, you know, same idea. How can you possibly say your country right or wrong? Especially when your country might not be your country anymore. Maybe it never was. You ever thought about that? If you see something wrong happening, I mean, how can you stand up to protect the wrong? Anyway, what Trump and Clinton's economic advisors can tell you about the candidates. And you can look them up if you so want to. And it says, Republican President candidate Donald Trump celebrates winning the South Carolina primary, blah, blah, blah. And they show you all the different pictures. And it says, they may not be the names in the spotlight, but in an election cycle where issues like job creation, you've been hearing that all your life, is the toss of jobs to China, and trade are taking center stage, the economic advisors for the Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton campaigns. Now, here's something that's true. It's not often you get anything true said, you know. The economic advisors for the Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton campaigns hold powerful positions in influencing the direction of the country's future policies. That's plural. That's all policies, folks. Much can be learned about the candidates and how they may lead the world's largest economy from looking to their advisors, and perhaps unsurprisingly, their advisors provide a lesson of what kind of aids the candidates seek, media-orientated and experienced, or consensus building with establishment ties. Two names who continually crop up as informal economic advisors to Trump and Republican nominee are Larry Kudlow, you can either pronounce it Kudlow or Kudlov, doesn't matter, and Stephen Moore. Each bring conservative and economic credentials, with Kudlow having served in Ronald Reagan's administration as chief economist of Bear Stearns. However, where he aligns most closely with Trump may be in the media. Kudlow is highly visible as CNBC contributing editor at National Review magazine, host of nationally syndicated talk radio shows. Then they go on a bit more and more about them and so on. So in contrast to Trump's very public advisors, and again, see, what I'm showing you is a whitewash, and how what you think can be telling you an awful lot, can be a whitewash as well, because they'll tell you more about the other candidate than have just told you about the Trump's candidates and or guys behind them. In contrast to Trump's very public advisors, Clinton's top economic advisors are less public in their roles. Known inside the campaign as the economics, Michael Shapiro and Michael Schmidt filter the economic advice Clinton receives and help her shape policy proposals. Both are relatively young and well-connected, aren't they ever, when it comes to Democratic establishment. Shapiro is 29 and worked in the White House's National Economic Council at a graduate in Yale Law School. Earlier this year, he married Jessica Schumer, the daughter of New York Senator Chuck Schumer. Also a graduate of Yale Law, the 30-year-old Schmidt earned his economic credentials working in the U.S. Treasury Department, and he previously helped manage Yale's endowment, etc., etc. And Clinton campaign spokesperson Jesse Ferguson also noted the influence of Jacob Liebenluft, who joined the campaign a month ago, coming from the White House, where he served as deputy director of the National Economic Council. Liebenluft focused on job training, I wonder who he was training, and minimum wage issues during his, I guess it's to bring it down to even lower wages, his time in President Barack Obama's administration. He's from Yale as well. It says, while the Trump campaign did not respond to CNBC's request for comment, quick scan of public comments and policy proposals show they are mostly in line with candidates who employ them when it comes to working style and ideology. And again, you have to really go through different things to find out more information. You see, all the time you have to do that. Now, from Papers New York, written by Jacob Kornblue, they talk about how I can accept Trump's offer to be Secretary of Treasury. Republican presidential frontrunner was put into the spotlight over the weekend once again for offensive comments he made about Fox News female moderator Megyn Kelly, but he earned at least one supporter as a result of his performance during the first televised debate. Jewish billionaire Carl Icahn this is from Jewish, probably a political sort of idea, it's the name of a paper, New York, was recently offered by Trump to serve as his Treasury Secretary if he managed to wrap up the GOP nomination and win the presidency in 2016. Icahn thanked Trump for his offer but turned him down. However, following the TV debate in Cleveland, Ohio, Icahn announced that he has had a change of heart and would accept the offer to serve as Secretary of Treasury in a Trump administration. Then they go on about the usual prattle and so on. But anyway, this is the fella who was going to be up there managing the Treasury, basically. And I'll put up these links tonight, as I say, to let you have more information on them, who they happen to be, etc., etc. Now we'll see who's supposedly on the team for Donald Trump. And this is economic advisory team, this is. So it says the team which the campaign tout is comprised of the top economists in the country, includes several real estate investors and hedge fund managers, hedge funds. Including the team are Steve Roth, CEO of Vornado Realty Trust, Howard Lorber, CEO of Vector Group Limited, Stephen Mnuchin, Trump's financial chairman, Tom Barak, founder of Colony Capital, Stephen M. Koch, CEO of Federal Savings Bank, Andy Beal, founder of Beal Bank, and Steve Feinberg, CEO of Cerberus Capital Management. Campaign's policy team will be led by a National Director of Policy, Stephen Miller, and Deputy Director, Dan Kowalski. This link to is not too bad. At least you get an idea of the names and you can look them up. And as I say, you'll find the same. You always find connections between different people, apart from making a lot of money. So change is good, right? Yeah, haha. Anyway, that's basically what it's all about. It's just the same big magnets that use nations for themselves. And again, you tell the people what they want to hear. I mean, unfortunately, it's so true. And it isn't that they don't know it. They know exactly what you want to hear. All politicians do. That's what all the big surveys are about, is they do constant polling of people to find out what they're talking about, what they think, etc. And so they just parrot what you say yourselves amongst each other, you know. They've got as much in common with you as a sparrow has to a condor, you know. And that's about it. Now, he's a good propaganda piece too. Exclusive. Hillary Clinton said to hire former Wall Street cop as campaign CFO. She'll bring one of Wall Street's fiercest critics to oversee her campaign's finances. Right? So you're thinking again, change is good, eh? Once again. And it says, so she's planning to name Gary Gensler, a former top federal financial regulator and strong advocate for strict Wall Street rules, as the chief financial officer of her campaign, according to a Democrat familiar with the decision. Gensler, in his role as chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, again, all much the same, was a leading player in the drafting and then implementation of the Dodd-Frank Act, which really went nowhere because they changed it all again before it really was put into effect. As for Clinton, who's been fighting for her left flank's concern that she's too cozy with Wall Street, Gensler is a notable hire. He became known as someone with sharp elbows even during his negotiations within the Obama administration in his push for tighter regulation. So you think, thank God, they've got a real guy in there to clean up that whole business. For the first time in history, it's going to get cleaned up, you see. And then you look at the other articles about it too. And Bloomberg's got the same kind of thing there too, about him being put in there to clean up Wall Street. Bloomberg? And let's see. So who is this great guy who's going to clean much with sharp elbows? Clinton's progressive beacon is a former Goldman Sachs banker and Bob Rubin protege. Well, change is good. Well, where's the change? Where is it? Where is it? It doesn't exist. So, it says, the deeper explanations against there's a financial policy unicorn, a deregulator turned reformer. Well, appearances can be deceptive. But believe you me, I mean, anybody connected with Goldman Sachs, bankers of the world or to the world, or who own the world perhaps as well, come on, what's different, eh? Eh? So there you go. And as I say, to the ones around Trump are just the same. Just the same. Hedge funds, titans, and multi-billionaire trillionaires, and Cara Aitken, Wilbur Ross, Cerberus, Stephen Feinberg, etc., hedge funders, Robert Mercer, Anthony Scaramucci, and former Goldman Sachs executive Steve Mnuchin. Yep, change is goody. Change is good. I should have a parrot that could talk like that too. That's how it is, folks, isn't it? It's a good circus, so folk get really tied into it. And they actually argue with and they're ready to fight with each other. Believe that, eh? Eh? Really? No one will ever change a system that was meant to be the way it is, which is, from the person at the bottom's viewpoint, totally corrupt, you see. And for those who run it all, they believe it's the way it should be. That's how it really is, isn't it? That's the way it should be. And the people themselves are just, unfortunately, the only time they get involved in anything is arguing about politics when it's voting time. The rest of the time they go along and watching their TV and all that stuff. They don't care much. It isn't hard to keep you whipped up, eh? Now you can see how wars get started too in the past. Now you don't have to whip them up for wars. You just give them a simple propaganda line and give them no work for the young guys, and you've got plenty of recruits there. That's all you need, isn't it? That's how life really is. But not from the big boys themselves. Never mind the money that's thrown around at all TV stations to repeat the same stuff over and over and over. And then radio stations too. Big bucks. Oh, it's full-time, way beyond their full-time salaries. Yep. So, really, I mean, you understand that everything is to do. See, we're in the EU, European Union Parliament. 1,200 odd lobby groups stationed around the big parliament there. 1,200 professional full-time lobby groups who work in shifts, all to get in and get deals, meaning big handouts for their corporate firms and that, for the taxpayer via politicians. So obviously take a little reward for it, That's how it really works. And every government's the same. And in the US, look, oh my God, the money to be made. The money to be made off you, the sheep, as you get fleeced and fleeced and fleeced for big corporations. And it's even better now with the mass psychology that they have. Mass psychology, sustainability, the green economy, blah, 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 electric cars. If you look into any big movement is created, someone's going to get a monopoly out of it, paid for by you. You'll pay for all the infrastructure, the building, and the research development for a private corporation. That's what it's all about. That's it. And more control over the general public, time and time again. That's how it works. That's really how it works, folks. Everything's bred in circuses. Everything is a big circus. Everything is. Anything emotional for the public is a circus. Always for an ulterior motive by those who design it. On behalf of those who are going to profit off it. You see. That's how it works. So there you go. It's always the same, isn't it? It's just that the appearance is supposedly different. Or maybe they'll be a bit different. Maybe they'll be nicer. Maybe the masters will be nicer to us. Maybe they'll put more money on getting better marketers to soothe us with better talk of soothing. Go to sleep. It's all going to get better. And we'll be happy. Eh? Maybe, eh? Maybe pigs can fly. But isn't that how it all goes, eh? And then, once it's all over and done with, there'll be a lot of bitching for about a year because things aren't fulfilled. And then the folk are they're all back to sleep. Most of them are back to sleep in no time at all. Diverted with the next little thing. They'll divert you with something. And you'll be diverted, all right. You will, And that's how it works, you see. When I first came to this country and you try to pretend that you know everything about their culture. You don't actually, because there's different terminology for things. And in Britain, for instance, if you had a yard sale or a garage sale, you would call it a jumble sale. That's the name of it, a jumble sale. So when folk say, "Oh, we're going to have a garage sale," I thought, they're selling garages? And I didn't want to show how ignorant I was. I'd say, "Oh, that's nice." And lots of folk were having garage sales in the summer. I thought, boy, what is this craze for buying garages, And then when folk would show me, and see, in North America, because it's more materialistic, you see, and they have a bit more room to store things up, like garages, they'd show you around the entire house when you visited. Where in Britain, you generally didn't get that. You came in to see someone and they were happy to see you, were yapping right away. You'd sit down, the kettle was on, a cup of tea was there. Before you know it, you're chatting. That's just what you did. You went to see folk, not to see how they lived or, that kind of thing. But North America is a different thing altogether. So they like to show you everything, including all the stuff that's now junk in their garage. Stuff that's very old, maybe, a few months. That's how old things are now, you see, a few months. All the things that are now, passing fads are gone, and toys are gone, and all this kind of stuff. And they can't use it for putting their cars in. And so I thought, maybe that's got something to do with them always selling garages, you see. Strange how your mind works, isn't it? You try to fathom out something like that. And that's how psychotic folk work all the time, by the way. Psychotic folk don't know they're psychotic. And so when something happens, their brain is still trying to rationalize what just happened in a most logical fashion, even though it sounds ludicrous to someone else, you see. So just pretending not to be stupid can end you in a lot of trouble. You could end up in a lot of trouble. Now, that was one thing, you see. But I can remember too, when I was reading about different religions and so on, and how Hinduism, according to Carl Jung, was quite fascinating, because he saw basically two cart drivers driving slowly towards each other one day in a street in a crowded city, and neither one moved out the way. It was like they were oblivious of each other. Well, one hit the other, and one of the carts overturned, and it was a slow motion thing, and even the way the people dealt with the stuff falling out the cart and the whole thing, etc. It was in slow motion. It's like it wasn't real to the people involved. And so he delved into the whole understanding of Hinduism, and it's got a tremendous caste system, of course. Now the Brahmins at the top are the real wise men. Nothing fools them, you know. But the ones down below are taught a different reality, kind of like the rest of the world, you know. And I think we should really put in some of those Hindus to manage all our financial affairs, just intergenerations of them. You see, because you would get more realism there from people who don't believe so much in realism, because they know, you see, if they're put in charge of your systems that create the money and everything else, or pretend to run it all, and pretend that they know all about it and how it really, really works and all that. They know nothing's real. So put them in charge of treasuries and that, because they know that nothing's real, including all their money, including all your debt too. Why not put them in charge? Maybe things will get better, because we've tried everything else, haven't we? Think about it. You know, it might just work. So when other countries send delegates over to demand the money that you owe them back, you'd say, well, go away. You don't exist, you see. Just go away. You don't exist. And then we can all do the same things when money's owed. Go away. You don't exist. You see. Wouldn't that be much better than having generations worrying themselves to death, running on a hamster wheel that constantly speeds up because your countries keep borrowing more and more money, we're told, and we've got more and more money to pay back with interest to a handful of people that run the world. Just go away. You don't exist. Nothing's real. I prefer that system, don't you? Now, I just want to get off the political thing for a minute. It's still connected with what I'm going to talk about, which is the greening project, sustainability, and all. That's all part of total control and more monopoly for the monopoly men that run the world. Wherever they touch, they monopolize it. The best way, of course, is to get you to give up everything. Your right to farm, your right to this, your right to that, to help the world and save you all, you see, and give it to them. And these big monopoly men will then run it, you know, and because they love you, and they truly are altruistic. They're born that way. They got halos when they come out the womb, you know, yep, on their heads as babies, and you're bedazzled by these little halos. They blind you so much you don't see what they're really up to, you know. It's amazing. But that's what the world is comprised of, you see. Chronology and chronologists. And if you bring what appears to be science into, that's something they found out in the late 1800s, you see. Go into the histories of the Industrial Revolution. Everything became optimistic. All these books were churned out about theories, about all these things we're finding out, and speculation, theoretical physics, and so on. Everyone's theoretical. So the sky was the limit with their theories and all that, and how wonderful the world was all going to be in the future, very, very soon too, you know. And so science was added to everything, including politics, you know. And that's never changed. They found out that folk will go along with anything if you make it sound very scientific, let these people who have just invented a science run your lives and manage them all for you, and they'll make sure you get fed just enough, you see, just enough. Very expensive too, mind you, but just enough, you see, to keep you going. And so on. And so you give everything up and you allow them to do it. And actually, you can't go back once it happens. You have no memory in a generation of any way it was before. And that's how things work. And that's what the whole greening thing's about. Just hand over all your rights to this and so on. And don't worry about it. We're very civilized. They always tell you they're more civilized today. The same system that's plundered and slaughtered across the planet for centuries is still plundering across the planet. It's just not they're plundering openly with blood and guts in your streets back home right now, so that they must be civilized, you see. But they're doing it elsewhere, same bunch, same reasons. We want that, get it, and that's it, you see. It's never changed. But monopoly, that's the key to it all, monopoly. And when you get a monopoly, and it's quite easy to, if you go through the history books, you'll find the whole history of monopoly. If you really look and you know what you're looking at and so on, you've got a memory to remember names and families and things like that. And you'll see how they corner the markets and all the other products or produce that goes into making a product, they'll corner too, so they have a total monopoly of everything that goes into making that one product, etc. That's how it's done, you see. So eventually the whole world can be at the mercy of a small bunch of people. That's also what Aldous Huxley talked about in his little warnings he'd give to people. And Aldous Huxley being part of he called it the scientific managers. There's different categories of them, you see. He was a scientific, his family were scientifically minded and so on behalf of the dominant minority, which he mentioned, dominant minority, his terminology. And he did mention the fact too that a small group of people with the knowledge of these sciences, of managing people and the psychology of people, could very easily take over the world and get the whole populations to do things they ought not to do. We start giving up your rights and your freedoms and this and that and other. The right to travel without permits and all that, blah, blah, blah. It could all disappear. All these things could just go. And that's what the whole green agenda is all about, folks. Sustainability. That's why one person can bring an idea forth about electric cars, and this one person will grease the skids of politics, and get the monopoly, and have even these cars and all research done with your tax money for the private corporation which this person will own, you see. That's how it works. That's how it works. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's so slick in its operation, most folk will go along with it. Well, it's for our own good, Yeah. It's for our own good, Do you remember all, and people have no memory, you understand. That's what gets me too. They have no memory. Remember all the hullabaloo, we're going to have run short of all the energy. There'll be no energy at all shortly. Panic, And then all the money's thrown into the frackers that were already sitting waiting to frack on behalf of the bigger corporations, you see. The bigger corporation says, let the small guys waste all their money and start the operations, and then we'll put them under and we'll take them all over for pennies, which they did, actually. But the government gets really involved, you see, and always using your tax money, because that's what you're there for, to cough it up, to get fleeced. And they pump it back into fracking, into the big monopoly men's hands now. And they're awfully successful, you see. And we also have natural gas, unlimited gas for hundreds of years for Americans. And this is telling you that they're taking all your money off you and the whole bit to put into this thing to save you all in future generations. As soon as it's all up and working and you pay for all the infrastructure, as it's all up and it's tanked and all the rest of it, they ship it off for exports abroad. You've all forgotten about that bit, haven't you? You don't even get a reminder at Christmas time, a little letter or a little card or something. Thank you very much. You're still in my thoughts. It doesn't exist, does it? And it happens over and over. Now it's electric cars. Yep. And it'll be the same. The whole industry around electric cars, again, owned by the monopoly men. And they don't go very far. And eventually you can't travel around. And so that's all Agenda 21. They printed it all up. No private vehicles eventually. Only essential vehicles. Essential vehicles only. Remember? Let's go into some of these articles here. Let's look at them. Let's just look at them here. I'll just mention some. I'm not going to read them all, obviously, because I don't have a 10,000 lifetimes to do it. And I've done talks before about it all in the past at cuttingthroughmatrix.com. Going to it and going to the archive section. There's lots and lots of stuff there. Ad nauseum for me. And we go into all this stuff to do with I've given so many stories about even the modified mosquitoes that, I mean, Canada leads the world, used to lead the world in it, and creating these big ones to carry big doses of bacteria or viruses for warfare purposes, declassified stuff. And that's who runs the industry, the Bill Gates and all the rest of it, industries. Warfare departments. And all they do is tell you, here to help you, and they release these modified mosquitoes to fight things like a Zika virus. Whoa. That's what they tell you. And you'll believe it. They already released stuff, remember, for dengue fever in Florida. Now they're going to release these things they're talking about. And the U.S. health regulators have cleared the way for a trial of genetically modified mosquitoes in Florida for Zika and other viruses. There you go. You watch what happens there down the road. Remember, they don't want to kill you all off at once, but I'll tell you, you'll see a lot of things increasing very quickly. Yeah. If you really look for them. So, that's one article there, right there. And then you have New York City's chief Zika hunter, Zika hunter, Dr. Jennifer Rakeman, and Public Health Laboratories Director, has been at the forefront of testing for many emerging diseases and so on, right? So we're talking about doom New York as well, spraying them with the new bugs and all the rest of it. Another one on Florida, about Florida shudders as Zika spread forces Miami shops to close, create the panic. Oh, well, we better use the taxpayers' money and get all these mosquitoes ready and just flood the country with them, and see what happens. That's how the monopoly people always do things, isn't it? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that amazing, eh? How easy it is, eh? Easy. Terrify you. Another one, Zika outbreak here. This one's about Brazil and what's been happening there and so on. Oh, terrifying story. Oh. It says, by the end of the year, Zika could infect 10,000 pregnant women in Puerto Rico. Could, you see. Where Zika is spreading faster than anywhere in the US, according to the CDC. Hundreds of babies could be affected. And Planned Parenthood's in this big time too. They've had so much bad press. They're on board with this one. Because we're going to encourage an awful lot of women who are petrified to simply go and have an abortion, you see. Everything ties in. Everything works for their agenda. Ever noticed that, eh? Anything flags a little bit. Oh, bingo, something happens, and they play it up, and they're back on top again. That's the way it works, isn't it? And then you have the 2016 Olympic Games as well. And they're prattling down there about what's going to happen there as well, because of the virus, etc. That's how you... Now, here's another article to do with what's at the very top here. With the same names and same people. And cut world population and redistribute resources, expert urges. Remember, expert? Remember Paul Ehrlich? Population bomb, the big advocate for killing most of you off. You off, that is, And I'll put this up tonight for you to get. There's actually a PDF there, and there's also an audio about his propaganda. This is the guy who said, things are terrible, things are going to happen. He was all on board with the coming ice age and the whole thing. It didn't happen, so now he's on the roasting age and barbecue age, and he's on board with that. But his whole thing's always been to depopulate all of you. All the wrong folk are, they're breeding all these poor folk. We don't need them anymore. And look up his wiki and so on, and he has an awful lot in common with the people who run everything else, actually, at the very top. There's no doubt about it. And they're always pushing each other. And their own books and so on, and their own points of view, because it's all the one same point of view. And it says, Paul Ehrlich, American professor and best-selling author, talks to John Vidal about population decline. Yep. So, there you get it then. Cut world population and redistribute resources. In other words, give all the rights to resources into the hands of the same few again, eh? Yep. There you go. That's what we really need to see. Let's get rid of all the people. You understand, there's no people in the world anymore except them. It's going to be a real paradise, isn't it? That's what they say themselves. They got the right to live because, you see, they're naturally assigned to be superior. They are superior to you. And they talk about that amongst them, the Lucky Gene Club. Remember the Lucky Gene Club? Bill Gates is in it, and a bunch of other folk too. I mean, the right gene club, the ones who should survive, the ones who are talking about overpopulation, but they want to help you at the same time by releasing viruses carried by mosquitoes and things. Huh? Oh, you better figure things out for yourself, and quick, I'm telling you. And then you have this one here. Global challenges facing humanity. How can population growth and resources be brought into balance? Well, once again, it's another big story about how to bring it into balance. And it's all psychologically written out. These things go back for review before they're released to the public. And psychologists know, but go over it and over and debate it. Because every word is important, the way it's strung together. Because the whole thing is to con you by creating fear and doubt about your own rationality and ability to make rational decisions, and hand it all over to the experts. Oh, you see? So how can you give all the resources to the right people, obviously, who'll distribute them, put them across the world properly, you see, and make sure you all get a fair share. Where have you heard that before? Where have you read in ancient history books even? Eh? So here they are again, with the same old stuff that Bertrand Russell was prattling on about, and the same stuff that H.G. Wells was prattling on about, and so on. Because they never change their opinions or future ideas about things. They never change anything, actually, except techniques, and they actually go ahead and do it. And lots of percentages. I've read this about this one before, because you can con anybody with apparently this science thing. Oh, percentages, which is all a racket. It's a scientific racket. The whole art of using percentages. If you ask a marketeer who's actually studied them and been taught them, they tell you how they manipulate all these percentage figures and so on. And you can't argue with science, can you? That's the whole idea of it. Well, 20% said blah, blah. More than 20 countries have falling populations, which could increase to 44 by 2050. Well, the same organization, the big United Nations organization, wanted the population to drastically fall for the last 100 years. But here they're saying, 20 countries have falling populations. What do they want? Do they want it to fall? Because they keep telling the same bunch to say, we're going to bring all these immigrants in from other countries to pay off the national debt. That's a feeble excuse to give, because there's not a real excuse behind it. And it's still their excuse. But here you go. Which do you want? It's like punch drunk. You get it from the left, you get it from the right. Bang, bang, bang. Your face is going back and forth. Left, right, punch, punch, punch. And you can't please them, can you? Depopulate, okay, bang, Oh, there's not enough people. Bang. It just goes on and on. Pavlov's dog. That's who you are. That's the technique being used on you. Do you understand that? And then you'll give up and just wait for an order. Do this. Give everything up. Okay. It's brilliant, isn't it? But it works awfully. Well, there's experts and scientists telling us all this stuff, you know. Now remember, too, that it's this old system of ruling the world. It's the same system. You got to get money at the top, and they have it all. The same boys, of course. They ain't going to give it up or give it away. And whatever system they bring in for you to believe in, and it's for you to believe in, remember, is to make their system work better for them at the top, who were all. And it's the same bunch. So that's why they're all on board with the green future. You see, is it called green? And for instance, you'll find that some of the articles I talked about years ago, like the Green Bank, they're opening up the green banks and all that, connected to Rothschilds and all the usual names associated with the big banks down through the centuries, and how they're all on board with creating green banks and the carbon banks and so on, trading banks, etc. It's all still going on. It's amazing too. I can give you all these different links and articles from the United Nations and so on, and nobody will know them. But these same people who won't know about what's happening, these articles, know about the gossip about Trump or Hillary Clinton. It's all gossip, folks, put by marketers. And all the actors and actresses, they know who married who and who got divorced from who, but all gossip stuff. That's what their lives are full of. I think that's by accident. Do you really think that's... You're managed so minutely, it's just incredible. But when it comes to what I'm talking about here, what's really going on, nothing. They know nothing. Nothing about it. If you tell them, they say, oh, come on, no, nobody would do... These are big... What do you think United Nations is? Who do you think owns it? I've given whole talks on who owns it. That's quite something. Peak people, as I say. 2030 agenda. A fresh start towards global sustainability. All these articles coming out now, as you're all busy with politics and so on. UN Political Forum opens with focus on achieving 2030 agenda's call to leave no one behind. And in other words, no one's going to get to escape from this agenda, the totalitarian agenda. An arm-length green bank would accelerate Canada's climate transition. Isn't that wonderful? By the really, truly independent Globe and Mail. And it goes on and on and on. It's just astonishing. It really is astonishing. Is green finance the next big thing for ING? Is it? Is it? Green financing. Eh? And in the aftermath of the Paris Agreement, policymakers and businesses around the world have spent the first 6 months of 2016 beginning to put into action all the promises made late last year. Remember that? The Paris Agreement? Have you all forgotten it already? Amazing how all these things march on, but all you get is Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Pre-Paris corporate pledges for boosting renewable energy generation must now be translated into real-life solar arrays. See, the big boys that own everything, and they also own, by the way, the big bank, the really big bank, and banks at the top. There's one big one, who own everything, also own the military-industrial complex. They own the corporations. They own... they've always owned energy of all kinds, including your nuclear, although you pay for it all, for upkeep, etc. You know, there's this public-private partnership scam where you pay for all the costs, they get all the profit. And that's how it always works. And they've gone all into the solar arrays and stuff. It talks about that here, real-life solar arrays. They've got to get into the real-life solar arrays, wind farms and other clean, which they own, but you will maintain and build for them and pay for. And their electric cars. It's all the same crew. City mayors promising emission cuts must set in motion plans to green their housing stock and improve public transport. Green their housing stock, eh? Mine is already, it's covered in fungus. You know. Firms with new zero-waste policies need to revamp their production strategy to capture residual value from trash. So we're going to be turned into third world countries, and you'll soon see your offspring, if you have any offspring, you know, climbing over the big trash heaps and picking for stuff to eat and stuff. All these efforts require investment. Where is the money going to come from? Where does money always come from? Eh? And it says it's not surprising Dutch banking giant ING reported impressive progress for sustainable finance division in the first half year of its released. Yes, what's sustainable financing? The bank's Sustainable Transitions Financed metric, STF metric, which measures the volume of projects. So they even got a completely abstract con of how to measure volumes of projects financed, you see, that boast a clear green agenda. So I guess like one of those clap meters used to be on game shows. The more you clap, you see, so many percentage voted and clapped for so-and-so. So this is how they're working out with this new measure, this thing that measures the volume of projects financed that boast a clear green agenda. Dear Lordy, I tell you. The stellar growth for the bank's environmental category is part down to the bank's ongoing reassessment of its clients. ING is identifying those which are deemed to be environmental outperformers. I heard it. Isn't that ING that's in trouble right now or something? I can't remember. Leading the market on green issues and counting these top firms in its STF metric. So there you are. STF metric is the amount of claps you get. Hand claps, I guess, for being green. And then you have global challenges facing humanity. How can population growth and resources be brought into balance? Oh, well, how can we do that, I wonder, eh? How can we do that? And they go through all the stuff that you need to live in this, like food and that, blah, blah, and, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the better the health care, the longer folk live. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Yeah. And it's all statistics as well. Lots of statistics need to really, really fool you, you see, until you're underneath your table quivering in fear. All the things, soil erosion, all these things that could happen, could happen, Loss of cropland could happen, yeah. And that could make fertilizer costs go even more expensive, Who owns that? Well, the big chemical industry that runs the warfare system too. That's where all the fertilizer comes from. And it goes on and on and on. But this is how they terrify you as they fleece your pockets at the same time. You're so stunned with fear you don't notice them groping around your pockets. But this is the real agenda, folks. The real world they live in, And I'll put up the whole article, supposedly. God, I think they always have another one for themselves, to be honest with you. Because they have big meetings, what to say to the public and what not to say, and what to print and what not to print. They have that all the time, in this wonderfully open society. Anyway, this is about the president of ECOSOC. It's like right out of George Orwell's 1984. INGSOC, This is ECOSOC. And the president is called no kidding you, O-H, first name, and the last name is June, J-O-N, June. Addresses the UN High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, 11th July. Opened the first meeting of the UN High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development since adoption of the UN 2030 Agenda. The President of the Economic and Social Security, ECOSOC, today outlined the task before the body and called for stronger commitment to accomplish its mandated tasks, meaning more money and more binding laws, you see, so you must all comply. Now, all the folk that you vote for always re-sign these things, folks, and you better think about that before you vote for anybody. Shouldn't you think about that? This isn't just starting. It started a long time ago, this Millennium Project, the Agenda 21 for the whole 21st century. And the 2030 Agenda is only part of the whole Agenda 21. It's only part. So as the usual bureaucraties speech here, how they speak in all bit, and they mentioned the usual propaganda phrases and so on that come out of the mouths of, supposedly come out of the mouths of these leaders, like "Oh June," you know, "Oh June," and here we are in August. But anyway, it's the usual propaganda, as I say, you know. It says, he recalled that over the previous weekend, the BBC World Service broadcasted live "My Perfect Country," UN Debate, a radio show focusing on the importance of policy innovation and integration in the context of sustainable development. Well, you better read what sustainable development means, folks. You better read what it means. And most won't, of course. They're too busy caught up in the emotions of the elections. And it's for the same bunch that's going to run you anyway, isn't it? So I'll put these links up tonight. And that really is the world. I just raced through this tonight because, I mean, it's just such a monotonous thing to do, isn't it? Just to talk about these things. Because it is monotonous. This has been happening all the time, this system. You have a global system backed by all your, quotation marks, leaders for generations, basically. And it's just forwarding the same single system until literally you will end up in the all the projects which they've already planned for you, which is, again, high intensity population centres, no rural living at all, no suburbs either for that matter. Don't want that there. Don't want you all crammed into the big cities. For the elite and their higher up bureaucrats and so on, they will have their wonderful places in the country for them especially. They already have special towns. Look at Prince Charles's special little villages and so on. That's the prototype for them around the world, you see, for those that really play the game well for their masters, and they're rewarded awfully well for keeping you all living crowded and living on top of each other in the cities, you see. That's what it's about. That is their perfect system, their perfect world. It's not new. It's the open secret, as H.G. Wells called it. He was all for it, you know. Now remember, make good use of cuttingthroughmatrix.com. If you're truly sincere about learning anything, you'd be surprised at the massive volume that's been through there over the years. And still is, even though Google and the rest of them tries to downplay it with their fake things and so on. And even some other agents too, you might say. But it's massive, and people never mention your name at all. Even though they even use my stuff verbatim often, you know. Lots of other little talk shows and so on have cropped up over the years. Never mention you. Yet even their shows are literally verbatim of what I've done in the past over years. So, you know, I throw a bone here once in a while. I don't mind if it's slightly gnawed on. It'll do me. I don't need that much. That's just the upkeep of everything, and that's where the money goes. From Hamish myself from Ontario, Canada, good night. May your God or your gods go with you.
Listening to UCY.tv. Why don't you stick around for more awesome radio?